You know, in sports, everyone is always looking for that secret weapon, that one perfect, data-driven move that's going to guarantee a win. But what if I told you that the search for the single best strategy is actually the fastest way to lose? What if the real secret to winning isn't being perfect, but being completely random? Let's dive in and see how randomness can be the smartest move you can make.
A Hole in the Sky. That's the title of Italian soccer legend Roberto Baggio's autobiography, and he's talking about one single moment, the 1994 World Cup final. It all came down to a penalty shootout, and his shot, well, it sailed right over the crossbar, losing the cup for Italy. It's just one of the most gut-wrenching moments in sports history, where all that pressure, all that training came down to one single action.
And Baggio's miss, it makes you wonder, right? In a moment with that much on the line, can science give us an answer? Is there some kind of formula, a perfect way to shoot, or a perfect way for the goalie to dive, that could take all that crushing uncertainty out of the equation? Believe me, thousands of researchers have tried to figure that out.
Well, to get to the answer, we actually need to step away from the roaring crowd and the bright lights of the stadium. We need to look at something much, much simpler. Because the secret to understanding a penalty kick isn't hiding in some complex spreadsheet. It's in a basic game you've probably played your whole life without even realizing it.
It's called the guessing game, and the rules couldn't be easier. Imagine you and I are playing. We both secretly choose either A or B. If our choices match, we both pick A or we both pick B, then I win. But if our choices are different, I pick A and you pick B, or the other way around, you win. That's it. It is a pure game of trying to get inside the other person's head.
So here's the catch. There's no single best move in this game. Let's say I just decide to choose A every single time. How long is it going to take you to figure that out? Not long, right? You'll just start choosing B every time, and you'll beat me game after game. My success completely depends on what I think you're going to do, and your success depends entirely on what you think I'm going to do. Now, in the world of game theory, there's a name for this. When you just pick the same thing over and over, that's called a pure strategy. And as we just saw, it's a terrible way to play because you become predictable. The much smarter approach is what's called a mixed strategy. And that just means you randomize your choice. You flip a coin in your head. You become impossible to read. And this leads us to this really brilliant, kind of counterintuitive idea. The best way to play the guessing game isn't to outsmart your opponent. It's to be random. When you're up against a thinking opponent, the only surefire way to win over the long run is to have no pattern at all.
So what on earth does this simple game of A's and B's have to do with world-class athletes? Well, it turns out that once you know what you're looking for, you start seeing this exact guessing game hidden everywhere in sports, hiding in plain sight. I mean, just think about it for a second. A tennis player serving, they can go wide or they can go down the line. A baseball pitcher can throw a fastball or a curveball. A volleyball player can go for that massive spike or just a soft little pokey over the blockers. In every single one of these moments, if the defender guesses right, they get a huge advantage. The key is to be unpredictable.
And all of this, of course, brings us right back to the penalty kick. You've got the kicker who can shoot left, right, or straight down the middle. And you've got the goalkeeper who can dive left, right, or stay put. It is the ultimate high-stakes, one-on-one guessing game. Outthinking your opponent becomes just as important as how hard you can kick the ball.
And that's exactly why we love these moments, isn't it? It's the randomness, the fact that we have no idea what's about to happen. That's what creates all the tension and excitement. I mean, a sport where the best move was always the same thing would be incredibly boring to watch.
Okay, so if the real key is to be unpredictable, what does that mean for all that scientific research trying to find the one single best way to take a penalty? Well, it means a whole lot of it is based on a really fascinating and fundamental flaw. So here's how a lot of this research goes. It's a simple three-step process. Step 1, researchers gather a ton of data on thousands of past penalty kicks. Step 2, they crunch the numbers to see which shot had the best track record. Maybe shooting to the top left corner worked most often. And then, step 3, they publish a paper recommending that all players should do that single best action. Seems pretty logical, right? Let's just run a little thought experiment from the source material to see exactly where this logic starts to fall apart. So imagine a big research study comes out. They've analyzed thousands of penalties. And this is what they find. They discover that, historically, shots that go right down the middle of the goal have a massive 91% success rate. And that's because goalies almost always dive to one side or the other. Shots to the side, only successful 77% of the time. The data looks crystal clear.
So this leads to the big question. Based on this data, should these researchers now tell every single soccer player on the planet to always, always aim for the middle? Is that actually good advice?
Of course not. It's terrible advice. Because think about it. The second that goalkeepers realize that every kicker is aiming for the middle, what are they going to do? They're going to stop diving. They'll just stand still. And that 91% advantage, it would disappear, literally overnight. This whole research model has a huge blind spot. It completely ignores the fact that there is a thinking, adapting opponent on the other side. And this isn't just some hypothetical. There are some really powerful real-world examples of what happens when a team goes all in on a single optimal strategy and forgets that their opponents are paying attention.
Take the Norwegian national soccer team in the early 90s. They came up with this revolutionary data-driven style of play. The idea was to use the absolute minimum number of passes to score a goal. And because it was so new and unexpected, it worked like a charm. They shot up the world rankings all the way to number 2. But then, opponents caught on. They started to copy Norway's style, which neutralized its advantage. And since those other teams often had better players, they started beating Norway. That optimal strategy became predictable, and Norway tumbled right back down the rankings.
And this search for a simple, single answer leads to some, well, truly bizarre recommendations in the actual research. Some studies, totally ignoring the whole guessing game aspect, have seriously suggested things like, to be a better penalty taker, you should wear a red jersey, or be left-footed, or, and this is my favorite, celebrate your goal as theatrically as possible. It just completely misses the point of the whole strategic chess match.
So, if looking for that one magic bullet, that single best move is a trap, what's the real winning strategy? Well, it's about putting all these pieces together.
And the scale of this flawed thinking is pretty incredible. A search in 2024 for academic papers on sports psychology and penalties found over 23,000 results. Now, to be fair, not all of them make this mistake, but a whole lot of them are built on that broken idea of finding one single repeatable best thing to do. This quote from the paper we've been looking at today just says it all perfectly. Recommending an optimal action when the optimal action is a random process can never be correct. You can't tell someone the right move is kick left when the actual right move is to be unpredictable. The goal isn't to find a secret pattern, it's to have no pattern at all.
So what this really teaches us is that in any kind of competition against someone who's thinking and adapting, whether that's in sports, in business, or even just in a negotiation, the hunt for a single perfect strategy is a losing game. The real power, the real edge, comes from calculated unpredictability. So the question I want to leave you with is, where else in your life is that true?